Welcome back to Mighty Retro. Today we're going to be talking about Need for Speed 2, which was a titan in the world of racing games. It hit the scene back in '97, which was courtesy of the legends at Electronic Arts and its dedicated development team, EA Canada. Now this game wasn't just a sequel, it was a statement, amping up what its predecessors brought to the table. After the original Need for Speed set the tracks on fire, the team knew they had to shift gears higher. They wanted to push the envelope, not just by adding more cars or tracks, but by enhancing the player's experience with immersive environments and heart-pounding racing dynamics. EA Canada was already revved up from the success of their first game, so they threw themselves into development with a clear vision. To create a racing game that felt more cinematic and was loaded with a variety of cars and tracks that would take players around the globe. They introduced a mix of real and fictional cars, making sure there was something for every kind of gearhead out there. The selection was diverse, from the exotic flair of the Ferrari F50 to the sheer muscle of the Ford Mustang Mach 3. Each car was a dream to look at and a beast to handle on the tracks. Need for Speed 2 was released for the PC and the Sony PlayStation, catering to a wide audience of racing enthusiasts. On the PC, it showcased cutting-edge graphics for its time, leveraging the power of then-modern hardware to deliver an immersive racing experience. The PlayStation version, meanwhile, brought Need for Speed 2 into the living room, allowing players to experience the thrill of high-speed racing on their TVs. The locations of Need for Speed 2 were nothing short of breathtaking. Imagine tearing through the scenic routes of Nepal, the Mediterranean, or the North American Pacific Northwest. These tracks weren't just backgrounds, they were the integral part of the racing experience, with each offering unique challenges and stunning visuals that kept players glued to their screens. The development team also ramped up the game's technology, utilizing a new game engine that allowed for more detailed environments and smoother gameplay. This wasn't just about going fast, it was about feeling the speed, seeing the world blur past you as you hammered down on the accelerator. One of the coolest things about Need for Speed 2 was its emphasis on the arcade experience. While the first game leaned towards realism, the sequel embraced the thrill and accessibility of the arcade-style play. It was a game that said, forget the rules and just drive. The graphics in Need for Speed 2 were like a nitrous boost to the eyes back in '97. The game didn't just play fast, it looked fast, setting a new standard for what racing games could look like. First up, the car models. These digital beasts were crafted with the attention to detail that was pretty much unparalleled at the time. We're talking about sleek lines, reflective surfaces, and designs that were true to their real-world counterparts. Each car wasn't a blocky set of polygons, it was a shining example of what virtual engineering could achieve. Whether you're behind the wheel of a McLaren F1 or a Ferrari F50 or any of the game's exotic speedsters, you felt like you were driving the real deal. And then there were the tracks, which were nothing short of a graphical tour de force. EA Canada transported players to locations around the globe, from the icy roads of Nepal to the sun-drenched streets of the Mediterranean. These weren't just static backdrops, they are dynamic living parts of the game. The environments featured changing weather conditions, day to night cycles, and a level of detail that made each race feel like a new adventure. Trees, buildings, and even roadside spectators were rendered with care, adding to the immersion. The lighting effects in Need for Speed 2 deserve a special mention. Sun glares, headlight beams cutting through the night, and reflections off the cars added layers of realism that were ahead of their time. These visual touches not only made the game more beautiful, they enhanced gameplay by influencing visibility and adding strategic elements to racing. Now let's also not forget about the sense of speed. Need for Speed 2 managed to convey velocity in a way that few others could. The blur effects as you pushed your car to its limits, the way the scenery rushed past, and the smooth frame rate combined to create a visceral feeling of acceleration. This wasn't just moving pixels, it was the art of speed, beautifully rendered on your screen. Need for Speed 2 also introduced various camera angles, allowing players to experience the race from different perspectives, whether you preferred behind the car view for a classic racing experience, or the in-car view for total immersion. The game made every pixel count. Now in short, the graphics of Need for Speed 2 were a masterpiece of their time, pushing the hardware limit and setting a high bar for visual excellence. It wasn't just about making a game look good, it was about creating a sensory experience that would stick with the player long after they turned off their console or PCs. EA Canada delivered a visceral feast that remains a high point in racing game history. The soundtrack for Need for Speed 2 is a roaring engine of beats and rhythms that perfectly captures the essence of high-speed racing. It's a mix of electronic and rock tracks, each piece carefully curated to match the adrenaline-pumping action on the screen. This wasn't just background music, it was an integral part of the Need for Speed 2 experience, setting the tone for each race and adding an extra layer of excitement to the gameplay. Now, right from the get-go, the soundtrack immerses you in the world of racing. The main menu theme sets the stage with electronic beats and atmospheric sounds, preparing players for high-octane adventures that await. As you select your car and track, the music shifts, reflecting the character and culture of each location you're about to race in. Whether it's the serene landscapes of the Mediterranean or the rugged terrains of Nepal, the music adapts and enhances the sense of immersion. Once the race begins, the soundtrack hits the accelerator. The tracks are a blend of techno, electronic, and rock elements, each one designed to keep your heart racing as fast as your car. The music is dynamic, changing in intensity with the action on the screen. When you're neck and neck with a rival, the tempo picks up, pushing you to edge past them. As you navigate sharp turns and narrow escapes, the music weaves around you, accentuating every move. The composers behind the soundtrack understood the game's ethos, creating pieces that not only complement the gameplay, but also stand out on their own. The tracks are memorable, with catchy hooks and beats that could easily find their way onto your playlist. It's the kind of soundtrack that stays with you, reminding you of epic races and narrow victories long after you turned off the game. Need for Speed 2 also offers players the ability to customize their audio experience. You could choose which tracks played during races or opt for a more ambient sound depending on your mood. This level of personalization was a nice touch, allowing each player to tailor the soundtrack to their racing style. The soundtrack for Need for Speed 2 is a high-revving mix of electronic and rock tracks that perfectly capture the game's spirit and speed of competition. It's not just music, it's an essential part of the racing experience, designed to keep you on the edge of your seat and fully immersed in the world of Need for Speed 2. The legacy of Need for Speed 2 is like the afterburner of a nitrous boost, long-lasting and unforgettable. Back in 1997, it didn't just race past the competition, it set new standards for what a racing game could be, leaving a tire tread mark on the industry and on the hearts of gamers that still is visible today. Need for Speed 2 was a pivotal point in shaping the future of racing games. It introduced gamers to a blend of exotic cars, diverse global tracks, wrapped up in a package of cutting-edge graphics and immersive gameplay. Now, this formula became a blueprint for countless racing games that followed, striving to match its blend of realism and arcade fun. The game pushed the envelope in terms of vehicle selection, track design, and graphics. The inclusion of both real and concept cars, each with unique handling and performance characteristics, offered a dream garage for players. The detailed environments and global settings provided a visual feast and showcased the developers' commitment to creating an engaging world. Need for Speed 2 didn't just entertain, it inspired. It built a community of passionate fans, eager to share their favorite cars, tracks, and tips. The game's multiplayer mode fostered competitive racing and camaraderie, predating today's online gaming communities, but laying the groundwork for social interaction through gaming. The game's success cemented Need for Speed as a flagship racing franchise for Electronic Arts, leading to numerous sequels and spin-offs. Each new entry has sought to capture the magic of Need for Speed 2. Whether through the thrill of the race, the allure of the cars, or the beauty of the tracks, the game's spirit lives on in the DNA of the series, influencing its direction and evolution. The soundtrack for Need for Speed became a benchmark for how music could enhance the gaming experience. Its energetic and diverse tracks complemented the gameplay, which set a standard for future titles in the series and beyond to create a soundscape that is as memorable as the game themselves. Now, for many, Need for Speed 2 remains a touchstone of their gaming history, a reminder of simpler times when the thrill of the race was all that mattered. Its legacy is kept alive through the retrospective reviews, fan communities, and the occasional replay on vintage hardware or through emulation. Now, in summary, the legacy of Need for Speed 2 is multifaceted. Touching on innovation, community, and influence and nostalgia, it wasn't just a game, it was a milestone that helped define a genre, shaping the tastes and expectations of gamers and developers alike. Its impact is still felt today, proving that a great game can transcend its era and become timeless. Need for Speed 2 was a gem from 1997, cranked the racing genre up to full throttle with its blistering speeds, jaw-dropping graphics, and a garage filled with dream cars that would make any enthusiast's heart race. With a soundtrack that pumped up as much adrenaline as the engines and gameplay that balanced on a fine line between arcade fun and simulation realism, Need for Speed 2 set a new standard for what racing games could be. Now, I want to hear from you. Did Need for Speed 2 rev up your gaming experience back in the day? Which car was your go-to for leaving your opponents in the dust? Go ahead and drop your memories or your favorite moments in the comments below, and make sure you like this video. And if you're feeling that need for speed, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more retro gaming content racing your way.